And now, to guide us to a better financial outcome and to show us that we can hold on to our dreams and even make them happen in spite of these times, Darren Farwell of the Farwell Group joins us. Good morning, Darren.
Good morning, Marilyn. Everyone knows these days that big transitions can happen, important transitions can happen at any time. And certainly people going through big transitions are well aware of it. Big transitions like becoming a widow, selling the business you've worked on your whole life, getting divorced, inheriting money, or what the heck, a global pandemic. You know when you're in it. And we know from our work with people who are going through transitions that, you want to successfully get through big transitions like this. But in order to do that, for most, you need process, a guide, a way to navigate the journey. When Kathy's husband died after 42 years of marriage, it was pretty darn clear to Kathy that she was going through a big transition. And one of the obvious problems, when life changes, money changes. And Kathy was all of a sudden feeling, unlike anything she'd felt before, quite disoriented. She hadn't handled the family investments before. Yes, she was very involved in the family budgeting on top of that, but the investment side, not so much. She hadn't handled actually getting the tax forms done, obviously involved in what was happening with expenses and incomes in the family household, but not so much in dealing specifically with the accountant. The list of new things for Kathy to consider on top of her grief was for her highly disorienting. Yet for all of her years working, raising a family, being married, surely Kathy deserved to feel safe and confident in managing her affairs. And we understand how scary it can be to have to take control. That's why we've taken specialized training as transition specialists through a course offered in the United States called the Certified Financial Transition Specialist. And of course, what they talk about there is when life changes, money changes. Yes, it's about the money. We can't ignore the money side of it, but that's a given. As a single woman, Kathy's tax rate was going to go up. She'd lost her husband's pension. Her assets were smaller than they were as a couple due to two things. Number one, the taxes that had to be paid on her deceased husband's death, and because her husband had left money to his children of a previous marriage. So Kathy had to solve for all of this stuff. And, we know from research that a widow's income can drop as much as 40%. But on top of all these financial things, we know that there are a lot of emotional issues for Kathy to deal with, or a widow to deal with, around losing a husband. That's why we've created a special process for widows, designed specifically with the needs of widows in mind. It involves listening carefully, helping to educate as you wish, focusing on your objectives and what's important to you, being a guide as needed, and much more. Really, it's all about freeing up your time and energy so you can focus on what's important to you. Our process is called your personal roadmap. It's designed with 3 steps to help you navigate your journey forward through transition. Step 1 is about getting back on your feet. One of the tools we use this quite frequently is called the decision-free zone. Sort out the things that need to deal with immediately. We can put them off to a little bit later, and then those that we put off to well down the road. Step number 2, designing your roadmap going forward. That's all about planning, putting in place a plan. When you're ready, when you feel prepared to think about your future, we start doing some detailed planning. And step number 3, moving forward with confidence. You can stop feeling stressed and overwhelmed and instead move forward with confidence. Now, this has been a long journey for Kathy. She's learning to live with her loss. Kathy gets quite upset when people talk about getting over it. She's learning to live with it. But part of her success in navigating this big transition is, of course, her own personal strength and resolve. But Kathy says another important part of her transformation is the confidence she's received from working with our team and her personal roadmap.
So basically, that roadmap has been a savior for many people, not just widows, but it really fits into crisis times. And you're saying prioritize, plan, and then to have an action plan and move forward confidently. If someone's sitting there and they're feeling overwhelmed and they want to understand the roadmap to their financial future, how do we reach you, Darren?
Well, you can feel free to pick up the phone the old-fashioned way and call us at 416-863-7501. And we'd be glad to discuss how the personal roadmap might fit with your own personal circumstances and needs. And Marilyn, I really like the way you summarized what took me a lot longer to explain. Thank you for that. But remember, not all transitions are necessarily bad ones. There are transitions that happen that are quite pleasant. We've had people who have inherited a significant amount of money. And while that sounds like a simple, easy thing to deal with, there actually are some complications in the family dynamic and other people's expectations that make it not quite as easy as it at first seems. So they're always in transition. There are some emotional and social dynamics which come into play.
Well, we're all walking down a different path, but the idea is to make it the most positive we can. And with the help of Darren Farwell and the Farwell team, you can manage your money. Take down the number 416-863-7501. Ask your questions, get your answers, and know that the future can be bright when you take charge of your finances. Thank you, Darren. I look forward to learning more next week. I believe that Leslie McCormick will be in.
Thank you, Marilyn.